June 2026, second week weekly world news summary. Global strategic briefing. Geopolitics, technology, and economic transitions. June 2026. Executive summary. The global landscape in June 2026 is characterized by intensified geopolitical friction, a critical tipping point in artificial intelligence, and significant domestic political realignments. Central to current events is the military escalation in the Middle East, specifically involving direct kinetic confrontations between the United States and Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, which has triggered a butterfly effect, impacting global energy supplies and food security in import-reliant nations. Simultaneously, the technology sector is witnessing a duality of progress and peril. While AI has achieved milestones in proactive pandemic vaccine design, industry leaders warn of an impending loss of human control over autonomous systems. Economically, the world faces structural shifts. South Korea's semiconductor-led growth contrasts with its currency vulnerabilities, while central banks like the Reserve Bank of Australia warn of the delayed effects of monetary tightening. Politically, historic shifts are observed in Hungary, with the end of Viktor Orban's 16-year rule, and in South Korea, with a landmark fifth term for the sole mayor amidst electoral administration failures. 1. Geopolitical volatility and military escalation. 1.1. The Middle East conflict and the Strait of Hormuz. The Middle East has entered a phase of rapid escalation, centered on the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point handling approximately 25% of global seaborne oil trade. Military confrontation. U.S. forces executed targeted strikes against Iranian coastal radar sites in Gorik and Qeshm Island, following the launch of 4 Iranian attack drones. In retaliation, Iran fired precision ballistic missiles at U.S. facilities in Kuwait and Bahrain. Navigational restrictions. Iran has imposed intensely strict restrictions on the strait, requiring commercial vessels to coordinate with Iranian naval forces to navigate potential minefields. Diplomatic fractures. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam have condemned Iran for using Lebanon as a bargaining chip in negotiations with the U.S. Aoun stated, "It's not your job to interfere into our country." 1.2. International friction and war powers. U.S. legislative constraints. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a binding resolution, 215 to 208, to limit President Trump's authority to wage war against Iran, requiring explicit congressional approval for further escalation. Diplomatic tensions. Reports indicate a contentious, obscenity-laced phone call between President Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister, highlighting strategic fractures between the traditional allies over ceasefire conditions. UK-US relations. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer criticized US Vice President J.D. Vance for linking a British murder case to mass migration, warning against foreign interference in British democracy. 2. Technological frontiers. AI and innovation. 2.1. The duality of artificial intelligence. The rapid advancement of AI is described by experts as a fundamental shift with both life-saving potential and existential risks. Medical breakthrough. Researchers at the University of Cambridge used AI to design a proactive vaccine antigen capable of defending against future coronavirus variants. This is the first time an AI-generated antigen has entered human clinical trials. The tipping point. Anthropic co-founder Jack Clark warned that humanity is precariously close to losing control over AI, noting that modern iterations can autonomously write their own complex source code, potentially rendering human input obsolete. Governance race. China has proposed an open and non-discriminatory AI governance structure, opposing the formation of exclusive technological blocks and announcing the World AI Conference in Shanghai. 2.2. Corporate strategy and media innovation. NVIDIA's culinary diplomacy. CEO Jensen Huang visited South Korea, meeting with legendary gamer Faker and hosting an informal barbecue dinner with leaders from SK, LG, and Naver to solidify the AI semiconductor supply chain. Media standards. The European Broadcasting Union, EBU, announced the 2026 Technology and Innovation Award nominees, focusing on AI audio monitoring, cloud scalability, and sustainable production, such as ITV's hybrid power systems using Second Life EV batteries. 3. Global economic and infrastructure trends. 3.1. Macroeconomic outlooks and currency volatility. South Korea. Won breached 1560 per dollar. KOSPI fell 5.54%. 17-year low reflects vulnerability to U.S. high interest rates and Middle East risk. South Korea. OECD raised growth outlook to 2.6%. Driven by a 169% surge in semiconductor exports, $87.8 billion total exports in May. Australia. RBA governor warns of 1 to 2 year lag in policy effects. Aggressive tightening is cooling the housing market, but risks negative equity. India. 53.21% non-fossil fuel electricity share. Achieved climate targets 5 years ahead of schedule. Launched carbon credit trading scheme. 3.2. Infrastructure resilience. Japan's nuclear pivot. Japan plans to replace 14 aging nuclear reactors by the 2050s to ensure energy security. The Kashiwazaki Kariwa 6 reactor resumed operations after 14 years offline. Canadian Municipal Defense. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, launched a task force to manage the impact of increased federal defense spending on local housing and infrastructure. Water scarcity in Calgary. Calgary reported a 23% loss of treated water due to underground leaks, attributed to gravel-heavy soil that hides pipe failures. 4. Domestic political transitions and social issues. 4.1. Electoral integrity and political realignments. South Korea's local elections. Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon secured a historic 5th term in a nail-biting come-from-behind victory, 48.94% versus 48.34%. However, the election was marred by a severe ballot paper shortage, leading to a 35-hour physical blockade by protesters and the resignation of the National Election Commission, NEC, leadership. Hungary's political shift. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán conceded defeat after 16 years of rule to challenger Peter Magyar and the newly formed TISA party, which is projected to secure 138 parliamentary seats. Prince Reza Pahlavi's tour. The former Iranian crown prince toured Europe, advocating for a democratic transition in Iran and insisting that the future political system be decided by a fair referendum. 4.2. Security and human rights. Russian military casualties. Independent investigations by Mediazona and the BBC used probate registry data, excess male mortality, to estimate military losses, providing a more accurate picture of the human cost of the war. Australian judicial controversy. A New South Wales police officer avoided jail time for a fatal crash involving an Indigenous teenager, sparking outcry from civil rights advocates over systemic legal double standards. Cricket Canada. Matches were moved to behind closed doors, no spectators, following extortion-related shootings targeting the organization's president, highlighting the interference of organized crime in international sports. Lebanon must absolutely not remain a continuous battlefield for external actors aggressively pursuing their own strategic geopolitical goals. Joseph Aoun, president of Lebanon. The technology may very soon reach an irreversible tipping point where continuous human input is rendered completely. Jack Clark, co-founder of Anthropic. Honoring fallen service members is a vital and inescapable social duty for the Lee Jae-myung, president of South Korea. Korea was the incredible country that not only made gaming popular, but also literally invented spectating the Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. A fundamentally different and responsible direction is urgently. Australian opposition figure on Labour's tax reforms.